Hello scholars, in this video we are going to review Python expressions. This video is a little long, it's a little over 20 minutes, so remember that you guys can slow this video down, you can re-watch it, you can pause it at any time to absorb all the information inside the video, but don't expect that you'll understand everything just by watching this once. This is why we're doing this video series, so you guys can review what we've learned in some of the classes. So before we start, I want to review some of the vocabulary that we discussed in class. First of all, a variable is a name that refers to a value or data. Assignment is a statement that assigns a value to a variable. Operand is one of the values on which an operator operates. An expression is a combination of variable operators and values that represent a single result. And to evaluate is to simplify an expression by performing the operations in order to yield a single value. All right, so we're going to do some practice in Thony here. Some practice expressions in Thony. All right. So I'm going to go into interactive mode here and type some comments so we know what we're doing. I'll also put some headings on the screen as well. So let's talk about the arithmetic operators that we can use in expressions. So I'm going to type some expressions here using the arithmetic operators. And these are the operators that you would expect. So 4 plus 2. This, I'm going to put some comments here. What is 4 plus 2 is what this expression means. Or it means evaluate 4 plus 2. Okay? Since we're in interactive mode, it'll just output the result, or evaluate the expression. So 4 minus 2, evaluate 4 minus 2 is what this means. And next we have multiplication. So 4 times 2. To do multiplication, it's the star, which is above the 8. So this means evaluate 4 times 2. And again, for each one of these, I'm going to add a comment so you understand what it means in English. Division is 4 slash 2, the forward slash, and this means in English, evaluate 4 divided by 2. Okay? Next, we are going to do find the remainder of 4 divided by 2. So in English, what this means, what is the remainder of 4 divided by 2? Or, more succinctly or shorter, we could say evaluate the modulo of 4 modulo 2. It's the same. It means the same thing as the remainder of 4 divided by 2. And of course, if you do 4 divided by 2 is 0. The remainder is 0. To get the power of 4 to the power of 2, we put star star. So evaluate 4 to the power of 2 is what this means, or 4 squared. To do a floor division basically means chop off the decimal point. Okay? So 4, evaluate the floor division of 4 by 2. Okay? So now we just get 2 without the dot, the point O. Okay? All right, I'm going to do some PEMDAS calculations here in our evaluations using some of the same arithmetic operators. Python understands PEMDAS. So if I say 5 plus 30 times 20, this means in Python, you're asking Python to evaluate 30 times 20 plus 5. Okay? Because it'll follow the rules of PEMDAS. Okay? But if you use parentheses and you say 5 plus 30 times 20, then this expression is evaluated exactly as it's written here, doing the parentheses first. So 5, you're basically saying to Python, evaluate 5 plus 30, and then times it or multiply it by 20, which is a different result than the previous. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to talk about expressions and variables. So we're going to set a variable to, we're going to assign the variable x to 5. Okay, so we create a variable x and assign it to the integer 5. Okay, we're going to assign the variable y to the integer 4. And again, I'm going to comment here exactly what's happening on each line, or create comments for what's happening on each line. All right, so we can do the same arithmetic operations here. So if I type in x plus y in Python, what I'm telling it to do in English is evaluate x plus y, which is, as you would expect, is 9. X minus y in English means evaluate x minus y, which is going to be 5 minus 4, which will give you 1. X times y, just as above when we were just doing numbers and not doing variables, is evaluate x times y. Okay? Now evaluate x over y, or x divided by y, is what this means. And we get 1.25 because 5 doesn't divide evenly by 4. And we can do evaluate x modulo. Remember, modulo is just the remainder of division. And we can do the power as well. So x to the power of y is what this means. So in English, you would say evaluate x to the power of y. Okay. And we can also do floor division here. So this in English would mean evaluate the floor division of x divided by y. Okay? Moving on, I'm going to talk about a couple more assignment operators. In addition to the equal sign, you can assign things to variables in different ways. So remember, x is assigned to 5. If I wanted to add 3 to x, I could assign it like this. I can say x equals x plus 3. So it's basically, this evaluates to x equals 5 plus 3, and it reassigns it to x, which would be 8. But oftentimes you want to add to a variable. So there are a couple assignment operators that let you add to a variable. Do you want to modify a variable? So there are assignment operators that let you modify a variable. This one just lets you add to a variable, so you can just do plus equal to add 3 instead of, and it's exactly the same as before. So it's basically saying assign x plus the integer 3 to the variable x. We can subtract 3 by doing minus equals. This assignment operator, the minus equal assignment operator, will subtract 3. So we're back at 8. We can multiply and reassign a variable. So times equals will multiply a number and reassign it to a variable. So assign x times the integer 3 to the variable x is what this line says in English. Notice we're saying a lot in just a few characters here. There's only 4 characters there, but it's saying a lot in English. So slash equals is division. So we are in English. Those four characters, the x, the slash, the equal, and the 3, is saying in English, assign the x divided by the integer 3 to the variable x. Okay, and if we type x again, that's what we get. We can also do powers. All right, and in English, think about what this would do based upon what we know about how powers work. It basically says assign x to the power of the integer 3 to x, to the variable x, rather. Okay? So x was 8. We did it to the power of 3. And that's what we got. And floor division as well. So we can assign the floor division of x by the integer 3. And that comment should have said integer 3 to the variable x. Okay? And we can do modulo as well, just to reassign the x variable. So x % equals 3 basically means x assign x modulo integer 3 to the variable x. Okay, and we get 2. Because if you divide that by 3, you get a remainder of 2. And you can reset, and you can set that by, if you divide 170 by 3, you get a remainder of 2. And you can, reassign x to 2. All right, remember that y is equal to 4. And now x is equal to 2. So we can do some comparison operators. We're going to talk about comparison operators now. So comparison operators let you compare two variables. So the two equal signs basically mean if two things equal. So this evaluates to x equals y, and x does not equal y, so we get a false. The exclamation point and equal sign evaluates to evaluate x not equal to y. X does not equal y, so Python says that is true. X greater than y. In English, this basically means evaluate x greater than y, which is false because x again is 2 and y is 4. If we say x less than y, this in English means evaluate x less than y, is what we're telling Python. So when it evaluates it and says that is true. We can do x greater than and equal to. Yeah, sorry, I forgot the y there. Do that again. X greater than or equal to y. This basically means this in English means evaluate x greater than or equal to y, which is false because again x is 2, y is 4. And then we can do x less than or equal to y. And in English, again, typing this out in this comment, this expression means evaluate x less than or equal to y, which is true. Okay, now we're going to move on to logical operators. All right, so logical operators are just the and the or. So I can combine this with some of the comparison operators. So this expression in English means evaluate x less than 5 and x less than 10. So if both of those are true, then that is true. Okay? The and in the middle means that both of those things have to be true. And that is what that evaluates to. Now if I say x greater than 5 or x greater than 1, this is basically telling Python evaluate x less than 5 or x less than 1. Okay, and that again is true because x is 2. And note that the and, the or, and the not are some of the reserved words that you can't assign variable names to. And if you don't remember what that is, watch the video on variables. So the not logical operator. If I put not and use parentheses here, this expression is basically asking Python to evaluate x less than 5 and x less than 10 not true. Okay? So we're evaluating whether or not this is not true. But since this is true, this evaluates to false. Because x less than 5 and x is less than 10 is true, that not is not true, that is when we say not true, it isn't false. So their expression is false. That expression, that not expression, is false rather, and it's false because the expression without the not is true. All right, so I'm going to jump over to script mode and do some more work with expressions here. I'm going to simulate a bank account. Okay, so let's say the beginning balance of our money, we're going to set to a variable called money, and we're going to put 500 in that. We're going to set it to the integer 500. And then we have a cost for our phone, and that's $240. And we have a cost for a tablet, and that is $200. And we have total costs, which is going to be equal to rather the phone cost plus the tablet cost. Right? Makes sense so far, I hope. All right, so now we're going to use a comparison operator. We're going to say, can we afford it? We're going to create a variable to say, can afford, or sorry, rather, can afford both. Okay? And so if the money is greater than the total cost, then we can afford it. All right, so we're going to print out the result of what can afford is. So we're going to use the print function, and we're going to type out a string, can you afford it? And then we're going to add the result of what is inside of the variable can afford both. And remember, we have to convert this to a string because when we do a comparison, what we're going to get back is a true or false, which is a bool. So we need to convert that into a string, okay? So that we can add it to the sentence, can you afford it? Okay? So now, before we run it, we have to save it. I'm going to save it in our projects. I'm going to save it as expression or expressions.py. All right? And you can see that you can afford it because 240 plus 200 is 440, which is less than 500, right? So when we create the variable can afford both, it's set to true. And when we print it out and convert it into a string, it says, can you afford it? And we get true. Okay? All of that should have been straightforward. If you don't understand that, pause the video and go back and watch that again. All right, so let's say the next thing we want to do is buy some Raspberry Pis. Okay? So a Raspberry Pi is about $25, depending on the kind that you get, but in general, it's about $25. Let's say we want to buy 3 Pis. So we could say Pis equals 3 times the price of the Raspberry Pi. Okay? So now we're going to add to our total cost. So total cost now equals total cost plus Pis. And now here, I could have also done plus equals Pis, but I want to make sure you guys understand what's happening here. Okay? Could have used the fancy assignment operator. Let's just copy from up there. I'm going to say, can you afford the Pis? And now we're going to run this again. And we cannot afford the Pis because we're over our budget or our bank account or our money of 500 now when we add the cost of the Pis. All right. Okay guys, that's about it for this video, and here's a recap of some of the mathematical expressions that you can do inside of Python using the arithmetic operators and also the comparison operators. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, modulo, and some of the comparison operators, the equal and not equal to, the greater than or less than operators. And as you can see, we can use the addition to add strings and also multiplication to multiply strings. We'll talk about strings at greater detail later on. If you have any issues going through this video, remember you can rewind, you can pause, you can watch this video all over again from the beginning. So I'll catch you guys in the next video where we'll review built-in functions.